1, 2, 3. Mhm.
It's time for BGFG.
Gonads are useful for their purpose, but they are no substitute for brains.
All right, here we go.
I have to say, well done, Ray. Well done. Well played, my adversary. Well played.
Fenix isn't gay, but if he was, he'd pick Fremont.
Oh, yeah, he'd be living down there with you in the bunker, man. Woo!
Once you go free, you always do the Z.
Like one day I'm not going to Duncan and you could get a controller, a new Xbox, possibly even a cord.
And now, here's our host to tell you more about what's coming up next. Host? Go, host. There you go, host.
Welcome to this week's BGFG, episode 358. And you need to be a pro, because as you see throughout the show, oh man, that incent's not working out. As you see throughout the show, everything's kind of pro-oriented. So I'm your host, Chris Fenix. Not joining me this week is Fremo Z. Unfortunately, he had some reoccurring issues with his injury, so he couldn't be here. And I was going to wait for him. We tried to do it a couple of days, but it didn't work out, and I figured I wanted to get it out before it was too late. And you'll see why in the first show, in the very first story. But I hope that Fremo's getting better. His hand's really kind of jacked up. Jeez. It's been a rough morning so far. Instead of doing it at night, I'm doing it in the morning. And it's just strange. I got my coffee, and it's odd to do things out of sequence. I'm not used to doing this in the morning. I'm half asleep. But like I said, I wanted to get it out, and I wanted to get it up there so that everybody would be kind of abreast of current situations, which is also kind of funny. So let's get into this week's show, and we will start off with some news from Cupertino, which kind of glad Freeman's not here for that. First up in this week's, actually,
BGFG News. You heard it here third.
Can't even get the damn intros right. So originally, when this was set for Saturday recording, we were all set to say set your clocks. March 8th is an Apple event. The announcement came with like a VR type thing, and as you can see the picture, it says Peak Performance with the PEEK. So there's a lot of times when Apple sends out their invitations, they send them out so that you can guess as to what's going on and what you're about to see, and they'll send little clues. And this clue, from what I can tell, that it's now March 9th that I'm recording this. That Peak Performance was a good one because I don't know what the hell they were talking about. There's really no hints in it that I can see without really grasping the straws. So originally, the thought process was that there was going to be an updated mid-range iPad, a new iPhone SE, a new Mac Pro, a consumer monitor, a Mac Pro Mini, and an update to the processors, or an update to the M2 processor. But so all in all, and let me just run through the stuff. We'll get to the M2 in a second. Apple did have their event. It was called the computers. They did release a monitor, and they did release a Pro, like a affordable Pro, I guess you could say. So the Mac Pro that's out there now. Let me just pull up the Apple Store, and if I went to their Mac section, and wow, this isn't even. I don't like the way this is laid out anymore. Scrolling. There we go. So before, you could buy the Mac Pro, which is a good-looking machine, not too shabby. You can get it for about $6,000, and that's going to be an Intel Xeon processor. That's going to be let's see, let's top it out. Let's configure it. So the Mac Pro currently, you're going to have an Intel 8-core Xeon processor, 32 gigs of RAM, and 512 gig SSD hard drive with a AMD's 80 Radeon Pro graphics cards. Okay, that's fine. Let's top this bad boy out. We'll give it a 28-core Xeon processor, which is essentially a server processor. We're going to give it, nobody needs that. We're going to give it 192 gigs of DDR memory. You can go up to 768 gigs. No, wait, I'm sorry. 1.5 terabytes of memory. I want to put that on there just for shits and giggles. The Radeon Pro, we can run dual Radeon Pros. So we're going to run that. For storage, we need something to put that in. Let's put an 8 terabyte stuff. So all in all, I have a Mac Pro. I don't, but topping it out. 28 core Xeon processor, 1.5 terabytes of RAM, 2 Radeon Pro graphics cards, and an 8 terabyte hard drive, and that's going to set you back about $50,000. Now, most people are going to sit there and go, "That's fucking $50,000. What are you talking about? I'm not doing that." Don't blame you at all. Entry level for this bad boy is going to be probably somewhere around the $5,000-6,000 era. Now, the $50,000 one, that's basically, yes, that's what this is. It's kind of rack mountable. But this is going to be for the pros, the real pros. This is going to be for the ILMs. This is going to be for the Pixars. This is going to be for those type people. Your base price is about $6,000 of a Mac Pro, and that's going to get you an 8-core Xeon processor. Again, all of this is pretty average for a PC. 32 gigs of RAM, high-end PC, Radeon Pro, single card with DDR6 storage. Let's bump that up to a terabyte. You're talking $6,100 for that. And you can adjust that how you see fit. The problem that most Mac people have is that there's no in between for us. So in the production computer that we use, this is all for the recording here. In the production computer that we have is a Mac Mini, and the Mac Mini is a newer Mac Mini with an M1, unbelievably fast. But even then, it's not used for gaming. It's not used for anything else, and there's no way to go up from that. That's all we have here at Phoenix Media Group is just that one computer to do all the work. And frankly, it's in overall standards. You want a little bit more for certain things. Like if I was going to run the 49-inch monitor for editing and maybe a sub monitor on an M1 Mac, that's going to be difficult because there's questions whether it actually works properly or not. But it's going to drive all those, or all that power, all that monitor space. And we want something a little bit more. Apple has always been, I'm so glad Freemo's not here to argue. Mac has always been an in-between company. Like, they always observe the rule of three, in my opinion. You had, for instance, their laptops. For laptops, you always had a MacBook Air or an iBook way back. You had a MacBook Air, which was for people that just, want to check their email, surf the internet real quick. They're not downloading a bunch of stuff. Then you had the MacBook. The MacBook was for people like myself, the pro consumer, the people that need the 1 terabyte, 2 terabyte hard drives, the people that need the little bit extra processor, the 64 gigs of RAM in it. That's what that was for. And then you had the MacBook Pro. And the MacBook Pro would be way more expensive, and it would have a Xeon processor or an i9 or something crazy like that, 120 gigs of RAM, 8 terabyte. I mean, it was just insane. And that's okay. That's not a big deal, but we've been missing that in the Mac side itself. It just hasn't been there, and it's kind of sad. So during the Peak Performance event, they announced a bunch of new things. They announced let me just scroll down the event list here. The first and foremost thing that they did, and we'll touch upon that in a minute, is, I'll start from the back end. The iPad Air was one of the things they released. Again, M1 chip, and they're putting that in everything, and it is that fast, people. M1 chip, 12 megapixel ultra wide video camera with center stage, which I think is brilliant. And it's got 5G in it. The other thing they released was the iPhone SE, another iPhone SE. This is going to be the third version of it. It's got an A15 Bionic processor, which is the same as I believe last year's iPad Pro had. And I have an iPad Pro. It is also fast. Not as fast as the M1, but it is fast and it is good. I like it a lot. It's got a lot of battery life in the SE, which again is okay. And the pricing on it is not too bad. I found that the pricing on it for let's go with a 128, it's going to be about $500. That's not too bad for a phone. It's not huge. It doesn't have all the bells and whistles because you don't need all the bells and whistles. I wish people would stop thinking that every 5 seconds they need to have a camera. Look, if you're making pictures, if you're taking pictures and you're selling pictures, or this is your livelihood or anything like that, yeah, maybe you should get an iPhone 13 Pro Max or an iPhone 12 Pro Max because they have a phenomenal camera. But if you're like me that's taking pictures of serial numbers most of the time at work, or occasional pictures of your kids or something funny that you see, you don't need a camera that's just so powerful. You can get just a basic camera in your phone. It won't even really matter. You'll never even notice it's not there, and you save yourself a shit ton of money. That's where the iPhone SE comes in. Back to the Pro camera system side, you have the iPhone 13 Pro and the iPhone 13. They've re-released them. They have OLED displays, and they now come in Alpine Green. The Alpine Green's a pretty cool color. I haven't seen green in a while, but again, it's green. Not a fan of green. But 2 new phones. Yay. Get to repair those too. But the most important thing that happened at this event was the announcement of the Studio Display and the Mac Studio computer. So let's start with the Mac Studio Display. The Studio Display is a 27-inch. Now, I've got upstairs right now on the production, not upstairs. I forget where I am at sometimes. Back here, I have the Mac Mini with the M1 processor, and I have 2 cinema displays. The cinema displays are 10 years old. They are damn good. They're still 1080. Their web camera was never that good, but it's enough to get by. But you're talking about screens that still do 1080. Beautiful. They're designed just like an iMac. They look like an iMac. I have 2 of them connected to the Mac Mini. Works great. Bezels are gigantic. so I could kind of do without those. Mac people have been waiting for a new consumer display for a while, and we got the cinema display with the Mac Pro that I just told you about a few minutes ago. But the cinema display is like $9,000, and is more than I would ever need or want, honestly. The studio display that I have here, the new one, is a 27-inch 5K Retina display. It is really pretty. It's got the 12 megapixel ultra wide camera with center stage on it. So if you go, what center stage is, if you go a bit off a little bit, it'll keep you in the center of the screen. And if you have multiple people in the screen, like somebody comes in on your shoulder, the camera itself will widen out a little bit to get everybody in there. The studio display also has 6 speakers in it, so it sounds really good. And I have no complaints with my 10-year-old cinema display from Apple on the Mac. I have 0 complaints with it. You know what? I'll give you a complaint. They both come with a dongle that's connected to them that has a charger for a Mac laptop from back in the day, so it doesn't really work now. But there's no way to... I had to buy all sorts of adapters connected to the new Mac to connect it to USB-C. So it is kind of a pain. And also the confusion back then with the Thunderbolt and DisplayPort, it was just very confusing. It was hard. The new studio display, you can get it with standard glass or nano texture glass. Standard glass will run you $1,600. Nano texture glass will run you $1,800. What is also kind of weird, cool, and bad all at the same time is that you can pick 3 ways that you want this display to stand up. You can get the tilt adjustment stand, which is essentially exactly like every iMac that's out there right now. That'll not change the price at all. That's standard. You can get the tilt and height adjustable stand. So now you're talking tilt and height, which is very similar. It's like a combination between their iPad cases with their Cinema Display Pro, their Pro Cinema Display. That's going to bump you up another $300. So you're talking $2,000 for this monitor. So let's just say $2,000. I can say with all honesty, and the third one is the VESA mount. I can say with all honesty that for $13,000, for $2,000, I would buy this, and I probably will be saving up to buy this and upgrade the stuff that we have in the production studio. But you definitely have. I'd spend $2,000, and that's from us here at BGFG. Spend $2,000. This thing's going to last you 10 years. All the other cinema displays have lasted. You can buy cinema displays online right now for your Mac. You can buy those 10-year-old ones. They're still out there. And people are essentially like, well, I just got another monitor, so I'm going to get rid of this one. They're still out there. I have 2 of them. There's nothing wrong with them. 10 years later, nothing at all. I'd buy this for $2,000 without a doubt because I know I'm going to get 10 years out of it. The other thing that they announced was the Mac Studio, kind of to go along with it. And this is something I'm kind of excited about. So it's the same height as a Mac. Take a Mac Mini and put 2 of them on top of each other. That's pretty much what the Mac Studio is. It's got an M1 Max processor and a new M1 Ultra. And this is kind of exciting. So what you're looking at is the Max itself is a 10-core CPU. Remember, all of this stuff is on one die now. That's how Apple's doing it, and they're doing it great. The M1 Max has a 10-core CPU and a 24-core GPU. And it's got a 16-core neural engine, but that's a whole nother thing. That baseline price is $2,000 for that. Not too bad. $2,000 is not too bad. If you're a Mac person and you need that kind of power for video editing, picture editing, audio editing, this is what you want. Now, what I'm probably going to shoot for, because I'm just an ass and I hold on to stuff forever, is the M1 Ultra. The M1 Ultra is a 20-core CPU, 48-core GPU, and 32-core neural engine, rather. People that have tested this already said that this is without a doubt as fast as an i9 with a 3080. They say without a shadow of a doubt. And I said it before, I wish Freemo was here. I said it, and I'll say it again, that this definitely needs to be something that needs to have games put on it. It will eventually have games put on it, like AAA games, and when it does, it's game over for NVIDIA and Intel, I think. This is ridiculous. This is something, again, this is small enough you can put in a backpack or in a suitcase and travel with it. You really don't have to worry about too much. And with HDMI, you can plug it into any TV. You could be in a hotel room and just plug it in, have a controller, have a wireless keyboard and mouse that'll fit in your backpack as well. and you have your whole computer right there. So if you're out on a conference or you're out on a business trip, you can have your entire computer with you. I think that's pretty damn good. There's no, I have my laptop right now, and when I get home, I'll put it on. No, you have it all right here. Great stuff. So let's upgrade this thing a little bit. So the Ultra can also add another 64 core GPU, which is another grand. That's a little bit steep. We'll go with that anyway. We'll top it out. 128 gigs of memory, and they offer an 8 terabyte storage. I think that's a little much. I'll go 2 terabyte, and that'll run you about 6 grand. Totally topped out with the 8 terabyte drive. We're talking 8 grand. I think that's a little much. So I'll go because it's storage. You'll eventually be able to replace the storage unless they solder that shit in again, which I hope they don't. But 2 terabytes of storage should be plenty for what you do. And because you should have an external hard drive. And that's going to be $6,200. Again, it's an investment, and people need to understand that. Oh, Macs are so expensive. You're going to get what you pay for. That shit's going to last a while, all of my stuff, my last Mac Mini served up the Fenix Media Group. Every single show that we did, past, present, everything, with all the websites, everything else, and plus whatever movies and TV shows I had around the house. That served up all of that stuff for 10 years without even batting an eye. I bought the cinema display and the Mac Mini at the same time, used them forever, never had a hiccup, never had to shut them off. That thing was probably shut off or restarted maybe 4 times throughout its lifespan. It just sits there and runs. It's just great. As for the processors are different, but everybody was expecting the M2 processor to be on some of these other devices. The M2 processor really isn't an update. It changes the architecture a little bit. They're still experimenting and trying things out, and I think that's great. So it becomes kind of double speak, and we really have to kind of ignore it. The M2 is not faster than the M1 Max. It's hard to explain. You have to look at the white paper for it to see. But all you need to know is that the M1, M2s, the Max, the Ultras, they're blazing fast. If you haven't, even if you're not a Mac person, next time you're at a big box store and they have one on display, play with it. And you'll be surprised as to how quickly this thing is. And if you still can, while the time permits, they might have an Intel version of one of these devices there at the same time. Try it, compare it. Just at the same time, click on an icon that isn't open and see how long it takes to open. It's stupid fast, ridiculous. So it's not like, look, it's an incremental update, which is fine. It's not like Windows that literally breaks things every time they do an update or an upgrade. Going from 10 to 11, I can't tell you what a shit show that's been at work. 10 to 11 is not something you should do. Don't update to 11 yet. It's just, it's not worth it. Look what they're doing with the Pro version of it. So there's a big problem that a lot of us geeks feel. And that's that when you put in Windows 11, one of the second or third questions it asks you is, what's your Wi-Fi? As soon as you type in your Wi-Fi and connect, it doesn't give you any prompts or anything else prior to that. It just says, hey, what's your Wi-Fi? And like any other person that's setting up a new computer, you're all excited. Like, yeah, shit, yeah. I'll put in my Wi-Fi. And you put in your Wi-Fi, and next thing you know, you are locked into Microsoft. You can't back out. You can't undo it. And all it says is to continue, you need to have a Microsoft account. Now, to be the devil's advocate, okay, you could go to Pro, Windows 11 Pro, and you didn't have to do that. It just went right through on a local account like it always did. The Home Edition is kind of bad, though. Having a Microsoft account isn't that bad. Microsoft says, oh, we'll give you access to Premier Services when you sign up. Yeah, what's your Premier Services? That's a joke. Your Premier Services are what? Your store? Your store's garbage. I mean, Apple has their problems with their store, but your store is absolute trash heap garbage. There is nothing worth a damn in there. And I'll give you an example. Windows does not come with a media player anymore. So, therefore, if you have an external hard drive, and I get a lot of these people that travel and want to watch movies and stuff, whatever, you have discs. They want that in there. They have no way to play them. No way at all. And I think that's hilarious. That's Premiere. But you go into the Microsoft store and you try to find one, and you'll find like 5 or 6 for like $5 to $8. There's no free ones anymore. And the ones that are free that are in there are just trash. There's stuff riddled with malware in there. It's just a joke. So that's when Windows. But I gotta play Freemo's card here. Apple does the same fucking thing. They do. I'm an Apple fan, and I think they do. I think Microsoft needs to learn how to handle it better. But I think signing up for a Microsoft account is not that bad. Now, here's why. I've had a couple of problems recently with Microsoft products, a controller, an Xbox pre-order, and there was something else. I think it was just an account issue. But, it was a BitLocker issue. Because I use that account for everything Microsoft, there was no problem. They kind of set it up it's kind of archaic in the way Microsoft does things. But once you get into your account online, you have access to pretty much everything. I was able to send out a controller for service, not even a problem. Actually, the only problem I had, and I'll tell you this as a pro tip, do not send out any accessories with your Microsoft product. If you're returning a controller, don't send the cord, don't send the case, don't send anything. Strip it down and send it in, because they're going to send you a stripped down version of it. I sent all of the controller parts for an Elite controller, and they sent me back a controller. I had to call them again to an argument with them to get all the rest of my stuff back. BitLocker issues, not a problem. Because I had my account on my computer, as soon as I restarted it and it BitLockered, I immediately went to the website on another computer, got my BitLocker key, put it in, everything's fine. So it has its advantages. And I think Microsoft is starting off to be a good job. But asking you to make an account immediately as soon as you start, I don't think that's a good idea. It's not a good look. You're locking people. Even Apple doesn't do that. You can, if you're setting up your new Apple device, if you were to go get one of these new Macs, the first thing it asks you is if you have, I think it's second or third as well. It asks you if you have a Apple ID. You can just skip it. It's right there. Skip. Put in Apple ID later. You don't have to do that. You can set it up normally, just as a regular computer. With Windows, you can't. Windows 11, you can't. And I think this is a problem. It's going to push people away from Windows 11. They're going to keep Windows 10 for at least the next 5 years until they discontinue it. And I think it's going to push them to other devices. You have a Chromebook. You have now Google Flex that's coming out, where it's kind of like a Linux distribution for different computers that's Google-oriented, like a Google Pixelbook. You have Apple's iOS on their iPads, which is exactly like a laptop experience, just a lot better, I think. You have Linux, of course, which is always making strides. I think people should look into Linux more. But it's problematic when you do that, when you're Microsoft and you force people. If you just don't force people, it'll be fine. Everybody will kind of work itself out. Again, the way I heard it when I was talking to Fremo about this before, he did say, he's like, well, who'd you rather trust with you? He's like, I'm a Microsoft person. You're an Apple person. He's like, I would trust Apple more than I would Microsoft with my information. I don't disagree with him. Microsoft's in bed with everybody. They're in bed with the government. They're in bed with this one, that one. They're third party in their EULAs. They're third party partners. Yeah, you have no idea who those third parties are. At least with Apple, they're kind of transparent as to who their third parties are and how it works. But no, not Microsoft. They definitely do not. And what happens? But again, I got to be the devil's advocate. When was the last time Microsoft got breached, or that we know about? Again, having all those government contracts, you think one of two things: either when they get breached, they don't tell anybody because they're government accessed, or they just simply don't get breached. That's quite possible. They could have enough security being part of the military infrastructure or the governmental infrastructure of this country. It's a pretty good assumption that they have some very high end security, and they've never gotten breached. You know who else I hope never gets breached? DeepMind. Sorry. I was making a Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy reference. DeepMind, that computer has got a side gig now. It's the most powerful computer in the world if you haven't heard of it. It's called DeepMind. It's a supercomputer that we created a neural network within it. So I don't know how better to explain this in layman's terms than it actually thinks. It can learn to play video games like a human, which is what they've done a lot of, and it solves mathematical problems. It does folding proteins. I mean, this is a supercomputer. This is the thing that you plug in different algorithms and theorems, and it will come out with the results. And this is how we make leaps forward. It's a good idea. I don't like the fact that this thing has a neural net and can start thinking on its own and making its own. It's from IBM. Well, so IBM supercomputer and Watson, which is another supercomputer, they're built for specific purposes, whether it's uh, certain algorithms or folding proteins. The DeepMind, it can think, so it can do multiple tasks. Now it's going to be helping create nuclear fusion. It'll control the machine that has to massage. Again, it's the best way to explain it. It's going to control the machine that massages the plasma to get nuclear fusion out of it. So, again, very smart computer, but I think we need to start being a lot more careful. A lot of AI talk's been coming out of Silicon Valley. A lot of precog thinking, Android-esque, especially with the cyber warfare stuff coming along. There's a lot of these little things that I think we really need to be careful, because no matter how you look at it, I don't care who you are or what you do, no matter how you look at it, the human race is a problem on this planet. We overpopulate. We're the only species that kills our own species, our own kind, just for fun. So at some point, AI can get smart enough to go, yeah, well, everybody'd be a lot better off if the humans weren't around here. That's a problem. That's what science fiction shows us, and that's what most people that have any sort of intelligence are afraid of, is that AI or androids or robots or however you want to call it are going to get smart enough, we're going to realize that we're the problem in a lot of different ways. I mean, it's maybe these supercomputers can work on the problem of space junk, because Fremont and I have always talked and told everybody about how we think this is actually a problem and becoming a bigger problem. I mean, really, let's just think about it for a minute. Did you ever think we get to a point in life where we're talking about space junk? I mean, space junk. But there is so much out there, and it's just going to get worse with all these other companies that are going, SpaceX, NASA. I mean, all these companies are throwing stuff up there. And now we have a piece that's actually heading into the moon. And like we talked about, I think last episode or the episode before, it's definitely a situation where, there's things on the moon that we shouldn't know about. So we can get a whole discussion on Zootopia Null about the dark side of the moon and craters and all sorts of things like that. And I'll say it once, I'll say it again. We don't know the dark side of the moon. I know that we went to the moon several times. Why did we stop? Why are all the craters a certain depth and nothing deeper? There's just a lot of questions that you need to have answered. Astronomers, though, have been tracking some space junk. It's actually, so it's a leftover piece of a rocket, and everybody was saying that it was Chinese in origin, but the Chinese are denying it completely. So nobody's really sure, and I don't think they're even going to care at this point. But while they're debating over it, it has smacked into the moon. And there's really been, right before I did the show, now I did these show notes like 2 days ago. So at that time, they identified that the object had hit the moon, but they didn't give us any information about it at that point, which is also odd. Like you figure they'd be tracking, they'd be like, yeah, it created a big hole and skipped across the top of the moon. No, they didn't say anything. All we ever hear is that it is, or it has impacted. It's supposed to be several tractor trailers large. So it should have made a dent or something, but I'm just surprised that we haven't heard about it. And in a wonderful piece, we get this news that the Space Force, I can't even make this shit up. I just, let me take a sip of coffee first, because we're talking about space and I love space. I don't know if I go to space anytime soon, because it's like being in the water. We're not meant to go in the water. We're not meant to go into space. Can we? Yes. Can we go in the water? Absolutely. But we're not the top of the food chain in either one of those spots. And in space, one thing goes wrong. You can be like, yeah, I want to go out of a spaceship, and I'm going to be tethered in my suit, tethered to the shuttle, and I'm going to look at our wonderful planet and then go back in. Okay, that's great. What happens if for some reason while you're out there, one of these little tiny nuts or bolts from the space crap that's up there hits your suit and immediately fries your suit or punctures a hole in your suit? you're going to be dead if you don't get that fixed real quick. And let me tell you, there is a lot of space junk out there. I encourage you to click on the show notes and read the actual list of the stuff that's out there. When you see a picture, or at least a made up picture of what is actually out there, you'd be surprised as to how much crap is out there. It's getting to the point where astronomers can't even see really anything that's going on. They have to find holes in. Again, it's a problem. And we talked about a year or two ago about companies that were vying to be space junk truck drivers, for lack of a better term. I think that needs to happen sooner rather than later. It needs to happen. But you don't have to worry, because the U.S. Space Force is going to start patrolling the moon. If I've ever seen something that's so blatantly obvious that they're trying to poke the humans of this planet enough, it would absolutely be the whole moon thing. So here's what I know. It's just, I don't, here's what I know. What I know is that there is a dark side of the moon. We don't see it ever. Okay, that's the first thing. Second thing, we sent plenty of missions to the moon. But then we suddenly stopped in 1972, which is odd. Third thing, the first trip to the moon, there is that weird, is it 20-second? I forgot how long it was. Missing audio from the NASA moon landing, the first one. That can be, and I believe it's when they stopped, they popped over to the medical channel and said what they saw. And it could have been peaks of a building or something like that, but they saw something. The bigger problem I have is when they came back to Earth. These were the people that went to the moon first, came back to Earth first. They did a return trip. I'd be elated. If you look at the moon landing, the press conference right after the moon landing, look at those. Look at the actual footage. Every one of those astronauts are sad and depressed. Every one of them. What did they see up there that makes them sad and depressed when they come back to this planet? You're the first people that left this planet, went on an alien planet, and then came back successfully. And you're sitting there all mopey and sad. Something went on. The fact that we have a U.S. Space Force now, and nobody's talking about it. It's just, yeah, we have a U.S. Space Force. That there was documents leaked not too long ago that showed multiple names of vessels or ships, like the USS Montgomery, the USS, that were never listed in any sort of naval log. So where are these ships? Are they being produced for the water, or are they in space, or already in space, or produced for space? Nobody's talking. Now we have the Space Force coming out and saying that we're going to patrol the moon. What? First, they're going to launch a satellite onto the dark side of the moon, which I think is a bad idea. I think there is something on the dark side of the moon. I don't want to go into it right now as to what it is, but I think there is definitely something over there that we need to investigate. But putting a satellite on that side, I don't think that's going to help matters much, good, bad, or indifferent. It'll be called, and I shit you not, the Cislunar Highway Patrol System. Let me just say that again. With a C, the Cislunar Highway Patrol System. Just tell me what those initials are, those acronyms. I'll wait. Yep, that spells chips. Oh, I can't make this shit up. And I was really hoping for Eric Estrada to be involved, but they missed an opportunity there. He's not. When asked why, they simply said that we want to really manage increased space traffic. What? What increased space traffic? What are you talking about? It's once in a while. There's once in a while a ship that goes. Like, what are you talking about? Increased space traffic. I think this is all bullshit. I think somewhere, I hope in my heart of hearts that whoever's in charge of the Space Force is actually sitting there saying, "Look, we really need to start slowly telling these people about shit that's really going on, and government's not doing it, but we have the way to do it by doing these stupid little things like a Space Force, like new suits that look like there's something out of sci-fi, like I don't know, launching a satellite to the dark side of the moon, or patrolling space traffic. I just, I'm just lost with this. So I thought it was great for the music this week. We're going to get into that now. I thought it was great that, and I haven't done any of the pictures. Wow, that's really bad. I did it again. So, if you're watching on video now, I got a picture of the space junk that's supposedly orbiting. But now what we're going to do instead is we're going to go ahead and we're going to kick into our music segment, which is always fun. And this week I decided to go with Corey Taylor on his own. Corey Taylor was the lead singer of Slipknot. Phenomenal singer, just a great musician. And what we're going to do this week is we're going to go with a song that he covered called Lunatic Fringe. If you don't know it, you should. And if you do know it, this is a great rendition of it. So we're going to do Lunatic Fringe, catch you on the other side for some gaming news and some GPU news.
Lunatic fringe, I know you're out there. You're in hiding. You hold your meetings. I can hear you coming. I know what you're after. Wise to you this time. Wise to you this time. We won't let you kill the laughter. Oh, 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 oh. Lunatic fringe. In the twilight's last gleaming. This is open season. You won't get too far, 'cause you gotta blame someone for your own confusion.
I really thought that was on for longer. Oh, hopefully that wasn't too much dead air. I hope. So that was Corey Taylor, Lunatic Fringe. Always good stuff. And I really liked it. See, this is why I need Freemo here. Crazy. So let's get into this week's games.
Gaming.
That's why the show's awful. It's why we don't make money. It's why we don't have a lot of listeners or viewers, because dead air and not the right timing. It is what it is. So let's talk about our GPU stuff like we always do. Prices are going down, people. Let's get excited about that. You know, by the summer, or at least by Christmas time, you should be able to get yourself a GPU. You should be able to get yourself just about anything. The whole idea of the chip see, in 2020, when people were talking about chip shortages and, oh, you're not going to get anything until 2022, everybody was up in arms. Guess what? It's 2022. Now the chip, you accepted all through 21 that the chip shortages were real, that we weren't going to be able to get ourselves a hands on any chips or anything else, and it was in constraints. Now, the first person that sends me an email, I'm going to drive to your house and slap you in the face. First person that sends me an email that tells me about how, well, yeah, if President Trump and President Biden or whomever you want to, whatever Politico you want to name, if it wasn't for them building these facilities, we wouldn't have, we would still have a chip shortage. No, that's bullshit. You're fucking wrong. In fact, you're dead wrong. Nope, that's the right one. That's not the one I wanted. How about this one?
It's such a shame you can't see what finger I'm holding up.
Because it's not because of that, okay? The chip shortages are just managing themselves out. Traffic is going, COVID's going away. Logistics are coming back into play. That's why this is happening. Not to mention the people that are getting them. A couple of friends of mine, I told you last week, a friend of mine picked up one. I have another friend that picked up one, a 3080 card. He was all set. He was excited. He got it for $1,400. He was going to flip that thing for $2,400. Not going to do that. He got $1,600 for it, and that was where he finally sold it. $200 profit. That's all he got. I mean, they're still high. Don't get me wrong. $1,600 for a 3080 is a little bit on the steep side, but it's not out of the realm of possibility right here. The Radeon 6800 is coming in around $1,000. Again, that's not that bad. In fact, now that I'm sitting here and I don't have to worry about anybody yelling at me, let me pull up eBay. I'm just curious, because the card that I've wanted for a while would be, let's see here. The card that I wanted was a Red Devil. The Red Devil cards are pretty badass. So the Red Devil, I even have one in here. Wow, don't even have one. Let's see. So here's a Power Color Red Devil AMD Radeon 6800 XT, $810. I would buy that all day. Well, also have to make sure that they're not bit mining with it, but that's a badass card right there. Those Red Devil cards are pretty sweet. Now I'm looking at that price. I might put a bid on it. In fact, let me click on it. Yeah, I think I'm going to put a bid on it right now. Yeah, let's see how that goes. But it looks like a lot of other ones are going for $1,200, which again is not that bad compared to the $2,300 we used to see them for. So again, you're getting better prices on things. The PS5, so another one, the Xbox Series X and Series S, they're in stock. You can get them. Just be patient. And they're not popping up one or two here and there. They're popping up like 5 or 6, or half a case or a case of them are popping up in retail locations. I don't think they're really pushing the fact that they have them. I think you're just finding out online. That way it's not a mass panic to get people there. Because like I told you last time, we had one and somebody came in and bought it. The guy behind him was a jack dude and he wasn't getting one. He was pissed off, waited for the guy outside the building. We watched to make sure he wasn't going to get beat up. But that's still pretty shitty. That guy even told, I'll give you this amount of money. Kid didn't want to hear it. But I think that's pretty shitty. I still have not seen a whole lot of PS5s. I saw 2 in the past couple of months. That was it in the store for sale. Outside of that, I don't see them anywhere. You can even start getting processors. I just picked up, those that are watching the video, I want to upgrade something. Got me a new AMD Ryzen 7. Gonna be putting that in soon. And I get that for retail. So even though the constraints are lessening, the Nvidia though still has their own problems. They just recently got hacked, and the hackers, of course, Nvidia is like, yeah, whatever, I don't care. You're not getting any money from us. But the hackers are like, well, then we'll start releasing some stuff, and all they're releasing is news, which is fine. Like the hackers released that there's a 40 series from the Nvidia will be very powerful. Well, great. You're not you're not telling me anything new. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that there was a 40 series coming of video cards. I'm also pretty sure the 40 series is going to be better than the 30 series. You're not making anybody super happy, people. This isn't like a bank that you're holding ransom over, or an oil company or something like that, or an electric company. This is Nvidia. They're video cards. What do you expect to get from them? More video cards? But in the documents that they released, what they did say was that the new 40 series cards have an increased L2 cache, as well as better shading, which is always nice. This is similar to what AMD did with their Infinity cache. So there's a couple of tricks that AMD uses. I have not experienced it yet because I just simply don't want to build another whole rig. But if you want to do the AMD now, let me start off by saying that I have several computers in this house. I have several computers for Phoenix Media Group, and I can tell you that the one I just brought home last night for one of my kids is an i9 3080 card on an MSI board. 32 gigs of RAM. The thing screams. It is unbelievably good and fast. And as you well know, because it's Intel and because it's NVIDIA, you have a double-edged sword there. You have on one side, you have it whipping fast. And so many games and products are optimized for the NVIDIA as well as Intel. So that's one side of the sword. The other side of the sword is the fact that, well, yeah, they're the most common and the most popular, so they're easily hacked, manipulated, or broken, I guess you could say. AMD, if you're on the other side, AMD really isn't that bad of a choice. So you have the Ryzen chipsets, which are really good, really fast, low power, very efficient, to stay cooler for longer. And you have the Radeon cards. I have a Radeon card in here. I have a Radeon 7 in this one. And the Radeon 7 is okay. They discontinued it real quick. It was a flagship thing. It was just a dog and pony show. I got one. It's okay. I'm able to pull 120, 130 frames on a game, which is plenty. It's plenty. But my son's new computer on that same game will pull 280 on his NVIDIA with an i9. Now, I'm hoping that processors and a couple of other upgrades I'm going to do to this thing over the next few months will produce better numbers. But until then, that's just about fine. The thing that makes AMD stand out is the AMD's memory process and memory sharing. So if you have a specific type of, any of the newer processors, paired with a newer AMD video card, and you combine both of those with a motherboard that will handle it, like a Crosshair 8, I'm an Asus fan, or Asus Maximus, you'll be able to share the memory, and it actually increases the speeds and the frame rates and things like that. I'm excited to try that. I don't think it's hokey. I think it's something that definitely works. It's been proven that it works. The Infinity Cache is the same way. But as for the new NVIDIA cards, the 40 series, it also is indication in these white papers that the power consumption has also been raised too. That's not a good thing. I mean, my son's computer that I just brought home, that shit runs hot. An i9 11th gen with a 3080. I mean, I have the same amount of fans. Like I can open up the side of this case here, and while we're doing all this production, I put my hand in there. It's not ice cold like it usually is, but it's cool. It's definitely cool in there. I don't have a temperature reading up, but I think the last time I did something like this live on the air, it was at something like, I want to say 70 degrees Celsius. I'm probably wrong. It's warm, but it's not cold and it's not hot. I have the same amount of fans in my son's computer, and I put my hand in his case, and that shit was hot. It was warm. It was like warm summer air. It was not a good thing. So the whole purpose of this hacking of NVIDIA is to try to get the hackers are basically ransoming to remove the anti-mining firmware. See, I don't think it's coming from this country. I think this is coming from other countries that have made, like China's a good example. A lot of people in China have been snagging these video cards. And if you look on the net, you'll find pictures of these entire rigs that have 30, 40 cards in them that are just constantly mining all day. That's how they're getting these Bitcoins. That's how they're getting these Ethereums. That's how they're making these huge money. And the sad thing is that as soon as they burn out, they turn around and they try to sell it to a consumer. Now, that card that was once doing, let's say, any given game that was doing 160 frames, now after it's done mining, it's going to be getting about 100 to 120 frames. It burns out the cards. And what NVIDIA did was they sent out firmware for these cards that would pretty much block mining. And now these hackers have hacked NVIDIA, and the ransom that they want is to remove the anti-mining firmware. I don't know. I don't know. They're not done there either. They've now targeted Samsung as well. You know, the group is called Lapsus. They got 190 gigs of data from Samsung. As far as anyone knows, they've made no demands though. But I think getting that type of information from Samsung with all the phones they sell, not the best thing. Not the best thing in the world. If everything goes right in the second half of 22, we're going to get Raptor Lake Intel processors, AMD Zen 4s, 40 series GPUs, and Apple plans to make a splash with new hardware and configurations. And there is a rumor that Apple will be allowing AAA games or starting to have AAA games. And you know that Fortnite's not going to be one of them. But if they put a Call of Duty or a Forza or something like that on there, I think they have a good shot. The problem here is that a lot of these gaming companies are now owned by Microsoft. And Microsoft and Apple do not... You know what? I'm going to take that back. Microsoft and Apple don't hate each other. They're competitors, but they don't hate each other. Bill Gates actually helped Steve Jobs get Apple back up on its feet. So there's nothing wrong with that. And they do have shared pieces of software. You can get an iTunes player on your PC, and you can get Microsoft Office on Apple, be native. So I don't think they have any arguments, but there is a lot of games out there, and I don't know if they want to share anything that's outside of anything that's owned by Google. That shit ain't never happening. Google and Apple don't like each other. But you know, we hope to see all these new pieces of hardware, especially as constraints loosen up. We're going to get a lot of new processors, a lot of new. You know that Raptor Lake Intel processor is going to be smoking hot. Like it's going to be so hot. You're going to need like extra fans. The AMD Zen 4 is supposed to be really cool. It's supposed to, and I say that in both terms of cool. It's supposed to stay cool as the ones that are currently out there are doing, but it's also supposed to add a few other technologies that they have in the background that's going to make everything more efficient and make it more in competition with the Intel i7 and i9 series. It is now, but it's not. When you use one, it's not. And that could be anything from the way it's built to how different companies utilize it. It's a bunch of different things. And the 40 series GPUs from NVIDIA are just inevitable. So naturally, they're going to be better than the 30 series. Some companies they don't get it, and they're just going to constantly be jerks, I think. Like Bungie is a good example. It's like, come on, guys. You screwed the pooch how many times now? If I was an investor and I was invested in Bungie, I'd be thoroughly pissed. Because first, you sold your best franchise, your only franchise, to Microsoft. I don't care how much money it was. That was what's keeping your company afloat. If you had like 4 or 5 other titles that they wanted, but you were able to keep Halo, yeah, that's a great deal. If you just had Halo and you sold Halo, but you want to keep the company, that's dumb. Like that was dumb. I get it. You had Destiny in the works and stuff. To having 2 IPOs like a Halo and a Destiny, that's unbelievable. You would be able to ride that boat forever. So now Bungie, these idiots are about to cost themselves the last of their faithful people, really. They've come out and stated that they'll be banning people. Destiny 2 is a friggin' joke at this point. It's so problematic. Now, their new update, Witch Queen, I believe it was, really good. My son plays it phenomenally. Came downstairs. He was like all excited. He explained to me all the things that changed. and it did sound excellent. Just it's so far along now that it's really not worthwhile to jump in now. You're not going to get the full experience, in my opinion. But there's been a lot of problems with Destiny 2 that you have to overcome. A lot of time consuming. You can't just jump in. There's a lot of perks and this and that and this thing you have to do and that thing you have to do. It's a lot. But if you try to play Destiny 2 on a Steam Deck, you're going to get banned. They're going to drop that ban hammer on you hardcore. And there is no technical reason as to why. Some are saying that Bungie's anti-cheat system won't work on the platform. But again, there's been questions about the anti-cheat thing for a very long time. I just think I think you're cutting your nose off to spite your face. If a lot of people are going to a lot of hardcore gamers are going to get a Steam Deck now or later, they're going to get one. And one of the many games that they're going to be playing or looking to play is a Destiny 2 type game when you're on the go. Why not? It's a grinder. Any game that you have to do long series of grinding, Elden Ring, Destiny 2, not really Call of Duty. I would say like a World of Warcraft or Shadows of Mordor. Anything that you have to grind on and just get things done. Why not be sitting on a bus, in a taxi, in an Uber, at your lunch break? Shit, I do that now with my phone. I grab my phone, I go on my lunch break, and I play a game. Why not? There's nothing wrong with that. Steam Deck makes that super easy. But taking a game like a Destiny 2 game that's huge and saying that if you even try to play it, you're going to get banned. That's going to suck for the people that don't listen to this show or don't read the news about it and they get a Steam Deck because they see one at the local Walmart or whatever it is. And they go, I want a Steam Deck. Then they get it and they see all these games. Yeah, I've been playing Destiny 2. Let me get Destiny 2 on here. And they get Destiny 2 on there and then they get banned for it. So I don't know. I would assume that it's not even going to be that easy to get Destiny 2 on there. But there's also no Destiny or Destiny 2 on the new Amazon Luna launch. That got launched as well, the full launch. And it's kind of funny because I think it was like 2 years ago that we here at BGFG in association with Stick Style, we did a whole review on the Amazon Luna. And this was early days of streaming gaming. It was prior to Xbox releasing theirs. Now, the Xbox one we did review, and you might remember that one. It reviewed really nice. Their streaming platform works really, really well. I've done that as well on a lunch break in my truck. Throw out my iPad, grab a controller, pair the controller to the iPad, go online, and I'm on Xbox's online service. Works great. No lag as long as you have a good connection. It's good. But you do need to connect to Wi-Fi because cellular kind of sucks. Amazon Luna, very, very similar. And they have their own controller for it. It looks like an Xbox controller, but it's got a different logo and it's colored a little purplish for the Luna color. Now, we grabbed it. We tested it. And it wasn't that bad. I mean, even in the early days, it was really, really good. The only problem we had with the Luna, you can go back and look at the review. The only problem we had with Amazon Luna was the fact that there was not a lot of games for it. There just wasn't. There wasn't anything really appealing. There was a couple of games. And now they came out with the full, I don't know why. I thought they actually killed it. Really. You can get it, but there's a lot of tiers on it now, which is weird. So Luna Plus is $10 a month. Family Channel is another $6 a month. So now you're up to $16 to get your games and get games that the family can play. And this is a good choice instead of a PlayStation or an Xbox if you can't get one or you can't afford one. You can get a Luna. And Luna is basically going to allow you to use any controller or their controller to connect to any device, providing you can connect the controller and play a game. And the Family Channel has a lot of family games like Jackbox. It has Uno. It has a bunch of family-oriented games. But the Luna Plus side will have all your more AAA titles. Retro games also. There's going to be another $5. And to get all the packs for Jackbox is going to be another $5. It's tough to take, the combination of Ubisoft and Luna is going to be $18. So you can actually do away with the Family Channel and everything else and just get Ubisoft and Luna for $18 a month. But the only things that's really, let me take a sip of my coffee. And the only thing that's really kind of worthwhile on that Ubisoft and Luna deal for $18 is Immortals Phoenix Rising and Devil May Cry 5. Now, for a portable niche gaming service, I guess you could say. I think those are good deals. Not great deals, but I think those could sustain you for a couple of months. Immortals Phoenix Rising, we've played that on stick style before. Really fun game. I really want to get into it again because I got into a part where I just got stuck and I couldn't do anything. But the game is fun and entertaining. And being able to play that on the go under the Luna system, very good. Devil May Cry 5, a staple in gaming. This is another game that you can jump in and play for a long period of time and get that little excitement going. So I think the Luna service, if they offer a trial, give it a whirl. If you're interested in the streaming gaming, or if you've tried Xbox's streaming gaming service and liked it and thought that it was good, you might want to try Luna if you want. It's connected to Amazon, so if you're an Amazon fan, you're a shoo-in for this type of thing. I don't think it's bad. I don't understand where it fits in the grand scheme of things. PlayStation has PlayStation Now, and they're probably going to be coming out with something a little bit different now or soon. Xbox has their streaming service, so I really think the market's full. I don't see where anybody else would have a spot for it. And then you have Steam Deck rather. I don't see where you're going to fit into this market, Amazon. I just don't. Not with what you're offering. There's nothing special that you're offering. So I don't know. And finally, in stick style news, if you're a Pac-Man fan, you're in luck. Many a times have I dropped quarters into those machines in the 80s. Many a times have I broken joysticks on Atari 5200s playing Pac-Man. And if you're a Gen Xer, which I hope you are listening to the show, then you're into Pac-Man too at some point. You might not admit it, but you'll play it if it's in front of you. So there's a new Pac-Man game, I guess you could say, that's coming out with Xbox Game Pass. It's a collection of 14 classic Pac-Man games. You're going to be able to do them on the PC and on the PlayStation 4 as well, and Xbox Game Pass. It's kind of weird though, because Pac-Man World is not included. It's basically got two. It's strange the ones they picked. There's like Pac-Man, Super Pac-Man, Pac-Land, Pac-Mania, Pac-Attack, Pac-Man Arrangement, and it goes on and on. There's just no Pac-Man World, and I believe there's no Miss Pac-Man either, which is really strange. But if you're a Pac-Man person, this is the way to go. I enjoyed Pac-Man a lot. The Pac-Man that they released about 7 or 8 years ago, that was done by the original guy that did the original Pac-Man. I think it was Pac-Man Championship Edition, it was called. I think that's the only sequel to Pac-Man that should be out there. I thought all these other games were kind of dumb. Super Pac-Man, Pac-Land, Pac-Mania. I thought they were dumb, especially after the cartoon came out. You started seeing really stupid games at the arcade. Like just dumb shit that was going on the Pac-Man idea. But Pac-Man Championship Edition, I think, really adds to that Pac-Man feel again, and that's where it should be. All right, let's get to the last segment this week, for what it's worth, and I'll vent about something. So this week we're talking about online taxes. And I know this is strange for people, like, what the fuck, Chris? You're talking about online taxes? What the hell? Yes, we are. And here's why. Because I had somebody come to the counter the other day, and ironically, I heard it a second time at my own house with some friends that were coming by about taxes. Like, why do I got to pay taxes if I'm buying the shit online? I don't disagree with that idea. And it's really kicking off with this metaverse issue. So the metaverse, I think, is stupid to begin with. We've said it on the show before. It's just dumb. But you know what? It's the surrogate movie come to life. If you think it's going to be like Player 2, you're sadly mistaken. Or Ready Player 2. Ready Player 1. Jeez Louise. If you think it's going to be like that, or you think it's going to be The Matrix, you are sadly mistaken. It's going to be just like the Bruce Willis film Surrogate. Just like that. It's human nature. It's unfortunate, but it's human nature. And just like Second Life, when it first came out, there's good sections, there's bad sections, there's newbies. There's 3 sections to this. Metaverse is going to ruin it, of course, but it's going to come out and it's going to be there. And people are bitching about stuff being taxed in the metaverse. Well, I can't really speak on the metaverse. What I will speak on is things like an Amazon or a Target or a Walmart or a Best Buy or GameStop. Any one of these stores that charge taxes with something that you buy online. I've heard people grumble about that. Like, buying it online doesn't do anything. I drive down there and I pick it up. Okay, but at the same time, just this week alone, Um, every year, my wife and I take some of our income tax money and we do little improvements to the house, or in this case, a new house. So we have to do something. And we do a couple of improvements. So we've been getting a stream of boxes being sent to our home. And we started thinking about it. We were talking to people, and the tax thing came up. And I was like, well, you know what? I don't mind paying taxes on this because it pays for other things. Think about it like this, people. Your delivery is being taxed, not your purchase is being taxed. Your delivery is being taxed. So if you order something from Amazon and you're going to get it delivered to your house, that has to go from Texas, say, to here. That's going to be plane rides. That's going to be trucks. That's going to be, let's just look at it locally. Let's look at your Uber driver. You know, you can take it. Wait, let me go back first. You get that Amazon delivery. That Amazon truck has to go to the local distribution center, get on a truck, get out here, get delivered. It's going to be on the roads that they're driving on. Now, if you have a road, like there's a couple of roads here in my state that are just absolutely atrocious. Like I think they're doing it on purpose now by not fixing them. Just that people either A, won't drive fast down them, or B, people just won't use them and take an alternate route that serves their purposes for more traffic, more business, whatever. Because there's no reason why they should have this big of potholes constantly. And not to mention when they do patch it, like, are you blind? Like, did you drive your own vehicle over that? Because that's not even with the ground at all in any way. It's actually a speed bump now. Thank you. So that Amazon person is driving on the roads that you have to pay for to be maintained. Okay. Let's look at it from a smaller point of view. Let's look at it from an Uber or DoorDash or a Lyft. Okay. You call my wife has used Uber, Lyft, and for delivering goods. It's sad how she used them. And now that's supposed to be a common thing. But she was one of the first ones I ever knew of to not put a person in the backseat of a car, but an air conditioner. But it's always interested me how this works. So that Uber driver, that Lyft driver, that delivery driver that you're getting your local food from, they're not going to be able to get there in one shape, or they're going to ruin their own car by driving down the street that's not maintained. Now, if there's no taxes being paid to your town or your city, then that road's not going to get fixed ever. Hence, that Uber driver might not want to take your call because that road's just too hard to get down. There's so many potholes that I'm going to ruin my car. They might do that. I've done that. I've taken alternate routes because the potholes were so big. I'm like, look, I got nice rims on my truck. They're big. They're expensive. And if I chip one, I'm going to be really pissed. And I did crack one on a pothole. And you go through the whole rigmarole of trying to find who in the state's going to pay for it or the town. And everybody passes the buck. You never get it done anyway. So you don't want to hurt your vehicle, and you're not going to get that done. But the taxes that you're paying on these delivery services are what is going to pay. We're going to get to a point where, whether people like it or not, we're going to get to a point where it's going to be too costly to do delivery drivers. So we've gotten accustomed with the pandemic to get everything delivered. Okay. Now, my daughter, one of my kids, my second oldest, actually does those driving stuff. Like she does Lyft, DoorDash, and I want to say she does Uber, but she doesn't do one of the driving services. And she picks those up for extra money. And even she said it. She's like, it's tough sometimes. Either I got to go a long distance, or they weren't correct on their distance that they wanted to drive. Instead of going downtown, they want to go across town. So there's big differences in how that goes, but that's wear and tear on her car. She's got a new Jeep. So she said it's wear and tear, and I got to think about that. I got to think about how long I'm going to drive. If I'm going to drive late at night, am I going to get partiers that are going to puke in the back of my vehicle? You know, and back to the taxes thing, going down a road that's constantly bumpy, you're going to take an alternate road if you know that road well enough, and you're not going to go down that road because of that. So you're going to take an alternate route, so it's going to cost more money. It's all going to pay out. And I don't know if this is going to sustain, because there's a very small margin with these delivery drivers as to what they make. And I'm tired of hearing about the local companies that are suffering. I heard that all throughout the pandemic. Oh, these local restaurants are suffering. They can't stay open. Local bars can't stay open because you have a fucking shitty business plan. You have no idea how to run your business properly. That's a fucking fact. And I get heated when I hear about that, because there's plenty of businesses that stayed open because they were fucking smart. There's a sushi restaurant in the town over that had no business in being open during the pandemic, but you know what? They were. And they started doing a couple of American dishes too, like burgers and fries and stuff like that. You know what they did? They took all of their wait staff, just like me and Fremo said. They took their entire wait staff. They put their wait staff in their cars. They paid them a little bit extra for the car delivery itself. They posted everywhere on social media that they were open and available for deliveries. No contact delivery services. You pay over the phone. They drop it off in the front door. Now, there's always going to be those problems where people are like, I didn't get it, even though they got it or whatever. So there's ways around it. Like when Amazon at first was taking pictures of every delivery, you can do something like that. But this shit was done. So I don't want to hear about these bars and shit. You're a bar, okay? You're a fucking bar. Get permission to deliver liquor. It's a thing that can be done, or, figure out some other subsidy. You're a bar. What is your overhead? The building? Talk to your landlord. You can't get anybody in there right now, so talk to your landlord. You're not going to have any sort of delivery service. What, do you deliver shitty Cisco mozzarella sticks to people? No, that shit's done in the microwave in your own building. If people want it bad enough, maybe you can deliver it. But when it comes to restaurants and stuff, there's no excuse. There's no excuse at all. So I don't want to hear about your shit failing. It's the same thing with delivery drivers and the taxes that they have to pay on it. And, we can't get a... No, hire some fucking people. Hire people to do deliveries and pay them a decent fucking wage. It's just that simple. Asking your delivery driver to make $7 an hour to drive from 6 o'clock at night to like midnight or 1 in the morning for your pizza company, which is flying boom, 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 especially if you're near a college town. You're constantly flying. Oh, you're going to make a lot of money on tips. Really? You're going to make a lot of money on your tips from the college kid? They don't have any money. And if your pizza's $15, you're damn right you're going to get a $5 tip if you get any at all. But when they start hiking up the prices and you get a $17 pizza, your tip might be $3. That $3 might not have gotten gas to go across town, or maybe put a little bit of gas in your car. You're still looking at you still got a $7 an hour downside. That's not a living wage at all. You got to work on tips. Waiters and waitresses do the same thing. But guess what? When they transitioned to doing deliveries, that changed. They made different kinds of money. The door opened to different type of money availability. So they were able to take that. They were able to transition from being wait staff when everything opened back up to subsidizing that paycheck with a delivery service, because they've done it. They learned how to do it from the company they currently work at. So paying taxes to these people and paying taxes a little bit more, you're going to start getting expensive. Your $20 dish that you wanted from your local pizzeria might turn around and be like $35 to get it to your house. You might think, what the f? I'm almost paying double. Yeah, you are almost paying double, because there's going to be taxes. There's going to be things. That company, that Domino's Pizza, is still in the center of your town. They still have to pay taxes on the building. They still have to pay taxes to the town or to the state. And that's going to pay for those roads that they're traveling on. It's no different than an online community, whether it's, which I'm kind of on the fence about. If you're a company that is being taxed by your local municipality for online, that's weird. But on a federal level, you're still a business. You're still taxing, and that's what you need to do. I don't know if the states that are incoming should be taxed as well. Like if you're getting a delivery from Texas to Maine, I don't know if Maine should get taxed as well. That's kind of weird. I think Texas should be taxed, and that should cover everything. But again, don't be pissed off about taxes. And I'm tired of hearing about the people that failed on this. If you had a bad business plan during the pandemic, you failed. That's simple. You just failed. You need to think outside the box. And I stress that, Freeman and I both stress that to everybody. Don't fall into that path of these people that are, I lost. Well, it was a tough year. I lost my business. I'm sorry you lost your business. I really am. I've been there. I've lost a business before. It is tough. But you sit back and you have to look at it and go, what could I have prevented this? That's what you learn from losing a business, man. You learn, could I have prevented this? How could I have prevented this? I'm sorry. If you're a restaurant and you closed during the pandemic, that's because you weren't prepared. You just weren't. When you saw this coming, you should have taken a couple of weeks off. Should have been able to still cook and deliver food. Just that simple. Find a way. I don't get it. And with the taxes, you're going to get taxed. Those are guaranteed in life. Death, taxes, and too many remote controls. Those are 3 things you can guarantee in life forever. All right, that's enough ranting. All right, that's it for this week. 10's down, show's over.
So you can find more of this garbage at bgfgonline.com. You can also send us an email with your questions or suggestions at bgfgshow@gmail.com. Find our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Overcast Podcast, Castro, Castbox, Podchaser, and YouTube. Thank you for listening.